I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. In this Catholic Schools Week, we'll head to a school in Queens where a wax museum comes alive.
You get really anxious, and then it's the day, and then you just get up and you're like, it's so exciting.
After a favorable ruling in Maryland, pro-life pregnancy centers in New York fight to save their centers.
We will sue the City Council and the City of New York if they pass this bill.
And exporting compassionate health care. We'll hear from a doctor who's given back to his home country.
Each one of them is capable of making a contribution and to make this world a much, much better place.
Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Well, it is Catholic Schools Week, and it's a time to look and to see what sets Catholic schools apart from the competition. Tomorrow night, we'll hear from Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio on that very subject. But tonight, we want to show you one way a Catholic school can stand out. So who says you can only learn history in a book? Well, certainly not the faculty and kids at St. Pancras School in Glendale, Queens. Every year, they make history come alive, literally, as the students take part in a living wax museum. Our cameras were there this morning for this year's event.
I was the first Catholic president of the United States.
I established a hospital and a medical school for all women. I was the first Union officer to be killed in the Civil War.
I needed to get children involved in reading, so I thought of a way to get them to dress up. Every child likes to dress up. So I said, what better way than to put the two together? I went to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in Manhattan with my husband, and I was looking around and I said, that's it.
Catholic Schools Week is a very special celebration here at St. Pancras School. This is the second day of our Wax Museum in which every child in the school is responsible for reading a biography and producing a project dressed in costume to represent what that person was about.
Because of computers, a lot of children don't read books anymore, particularly nonfiction stories.
What the kids get out of this is a wonderful learning experience. It's purely an English language arts experience where the children are presenting orally research, reading, and writing that they have done.
And it is pretty funny when you see the sheets that look like togas, mom's earrings that all of a sudden become Cleopatra's Egyptian earrings.
Some of them will choose individuals that might have some influence, like Madame Curie. A lot of them might have people involved with the Red Cross. So they do some, while it's not directly spiritual, they were against some social issues or moral values or things that people who have made impacts upon society.
Some people look at me like, what? But it works.
And the children are wonderful and natural performers. Provides a very, very good opportunity for them to show off what they've learned and why this is such a special place for them to be. And they love it.
You get really anxious, and then it's the day, and then you just get up and you're like, it's so exciting. And then you're like wide awake when you wake up.
I let my parents know, but I was scared and excited.
So I look forward to it for a while, for like a week or two already.
It's excellent. I go around and I listen to what historians have done in the past, and I'm learning from it too.
They anticipate it every year. It's very cute. They really enjoy it. It's informative. You can find out a lot of things that you may have thought you knew and you really didn't.
Everybody has been very supportive, including the parents too who have become involved. Everybody here is working very, very hard to continue Catholic education here in Glendale.
I like sending my children to Catholic school, especially St. Pancras. I came to this school and I think it's a great administration, faculty, great principal, and they learn a lot about their Catholic religion.
It motivates them more, and we find that the studies and the homework, it's a lot more intense.
I love Catholic school.
They did a good job and they know it. Teachers walk away saying, let's see if we can apply this in another way. You know, it doesn't have to be a wax museum, but something where the children are 100% involved. Because if you challenge them, they can meet the challenge.
That's what education is all about right there. Well, let's stay tuned because there's much more coming up here on Currents. A Coptic Catholic leader in Egypt speaking out now about the protests and violence there. That story and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up in just a bit, a court ruling in Baltimore gives New York's crisis pregnancy centers hope for the future. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Well, Christians in Egypt are hoping for the best. That's what the head of Egypt's Coptic Catholics says as protests continue there for a 10th straight day. Cardinal Antonius Najib tells the National Catholic Register that Christians share the same situation as the rest of Egypt's population. He also asked Christians around the world to pray for peace. Well, meanwhile, Egypt's newly appointed prime minister apologized for the violence that's rocked the country. The country's vice president, meanwhile, says those responsible will be held accountable. He also announced that President Hosni Mubarak's son, who is being groomed to take over for his father, will not run for president later this year. From Pakistan, the leader of that country's Catholics has denounced the burnings of effigies of Pope Benedict. Archbishop Lawrence Saldana has said that faithful Christians, this wounds us. Islamic groups burned effigies of the Pope and a government minister during a rally in Pakistan to oppose amending the country's blasphemy law. Reports say the groups also burned crosses. From Cuba, church officials say the government has agreed to release 4 more political prisoners and send them to exile in Spain. The 4 men are reportedly not part of a larger group of dissidents arrested back in 2003. After meeting with Catholic Church leaders last year, Cuban President Raul Castro did agree to release 52 dissidents who had been rounded up and sentenced to long prison terms. Well, turning now to Washington, President Obama says his Christian faith has been a sustaining force in his life. The president spoke today at the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington. Obama says the challenges he's faced as president have strengthened his faith.
In the wake of failures and disappointments, I've questioned what God had in store for me and been reminded that God's plans for us may not always match our own short-sighted desires. And let me tell you, these past 2 years, they have deepened my faith.
Meanwhile, Mark Kelly, the husband of Arizona Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, gave the closing prayer. Now, amidst the turmoil in his life, Kelly says he's looking for something positive.
Maybe something good can come from all this. Maybe it's our responsibility. Maybe it's your responsibility to see that something does.
Kelly says his wife's condition continues to improve. You'll remember she was seriously wounded January 8th when a gunman opened fire at an event she was hosting in Tucson. Elsewhere in Washington, there's ongoing debate about whether the new health care law covers free contraception. The New York Times reports the Obama administration is examining whether the law can be used to require insurance plans to offer contraception and other family planning services free of charge. Many health experts say contraception is a form of preventative health care, while others, including the U.S. Bishops' Conference, say pregnancy is not a disease to be prevented. The Vatican, meanwhile, will take a close look at preventing AIDS as part of a conference it's hosting in May. The event will also look at how best to care for those living with AIDS. The Church's position on condom use as a way of preventing the disease gained attention last year, late in the year. In a book interview, the Pope said that people with HIV who use a condom as a way to prevent spreading the virus may be taking the first step toward a moral life. The Vatican later clarified those remarks, saying the Pope was not condoning condom use. A landmark discovery in Israel where archaeologists have uncovered a 1,500-year-old Byzantine church, 1,500 years old. The basilica, located southwest of Jerusalem, was active between the 5th and 6th centuries. The man who led the archaeological dig says the floor of the church there was one of the most beautiful mosaics to be uncovered in Israel in recent years. The church will be visible for another week before it's again covered up to protect it. A historical day in Louisiana on Tuesday. To kick off Black History Month, the Archdiocese of New Orleans posted its record of slave baptisms online. The records, seen here in their original form, date back to 1777, before Louisiana was a state. They also include baptismal records for free persons of color. The online posting is the first of what will be an ongoing effort by the Archdiocese to post all of its sacramental records on the web. And people are flocking to a library in Ohio where visitors say they've seen a statue of the Virgin Mary crying. We'll get more now from Janelle Walton.
The statue of Mother Mary crying inside Our Lady Queen of Reading Religious Lending Library is bringing tears to some visitors' eyes.
I believe it's true. They were there. I mean, I saw them. They were actually true. It's true. And it's more than, I would imagine it's a miracle.
Our cameras were not allowed inside, but visitors snapped photos of the Virgin Mary. You can see 2 teardrops on her face. One rests on her chin, the other on her cheek. There is another statue of Jesus sitting at the top of the stairs with tears falling from its eyes.
I heard about it on the radio and didn't think much of it, and then being here at work we saw the lineup of people, and curiosity, I went over and looked, and it's unbelievable. It's forming, the tear's there. It does not look like it's been water or anything. It's real weird, very weird.
Most want to believe what they see.
Well, I have faith that it is, and you know, I'm not, we can't always be sure, but I prayed to her, and I feel better about it, and I'm glad I came.
There are more visitors arriving every day as word spreads about the crying statues. We're told the owner wanted to keep it a secret for fear the statues would stop crying. Others say they believe the tears are a sign of hope. They believe it should be shared with the community.
You hear about it in other countries, and then it's like here in Reading, I mean, of all places. But yeah, it is a miracle. I think it is. I think something will come of it, hopefully, something good.
That is Janelle Walton reporting. Well, stay tuned. There's much more Currents coming up. Just ahead, the pro-life pregnancy centers fighting to save their existence may have received a ray of hope.
Well, it's a good sign, and I think it's going to give pause to other legislators across the country.
Welcome back. A federal judge in Maryland struck down a law this week that required pro-life pregnancy centers to post signs telling potential clients that they do not refer to abortion or birth control services. And that's a ruling that could have wide implications, especially here in New York City, where the City Council is considering a similar measure known as Bill 371. Chris Slattery is the director of Expectant Mother Care, EMC Pregnancy Centers. He joins me now here in the studio to talk about how the ruling in Baltimore could affect pregnancy centers here. We're going to talk about a lot more as well. Chris, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
First of all, tell me a little about this ruling and the one in Baltimore and how it could affect the consideration of Bill 371 here in New York.
Well, interestingly, the plaintiff in this case in Baltimore was the Archbishop of Baltimore. The church really took a strong stand there, and the Archbishop, who had formerly been an auxiliary of the Archdiocese of New York and the rector of the St. Joseph Seminary. So they waited 14 months for a ruling as they sought a preliminary injunction of this law that passed 14 months ago. So they got a great ruling that basically declared the entire bill, law now, unconstitutional based on the First Amendment concerns.
And this is something too, I mean, of course, we talk about Bill 371. I mean, that would do basically, are there any major differences between the law in Baltimore and the consideration here of Bill 371? I know the signage we talked about, that Bill 371 also includes that, that you would have to post, we don't refer to abortion or other services. Also, Bill 371 would require changes in advertising as well, right, to posters and so forth. Any major differences?
Well, the principal differences, the Baltimore bill did not regulate the advertising,
gotcha,
but the principles apply equally to the signs, sure, and the advertising, because it was the same language in the warning signs and the advertising as would be on the door. So it's basically the same First Amendment issue that basically eviscerates the First Amendment attack that we have in Bill 371. So they can't get away with it. It would, if they took away the regulations of the signage of and regulations on the advertising in Bill 371, I mean, the bill is gone.
Yeah.
There's another element. There's the issue of confidentiality. And that opens another can of worms.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
but I can touch on that.
Sure. And where are we right now in the process with Bill 371? Where is it along the route to being voted on by the City Council?
Well, right now the bill is 3 months old, and it's still languishing, I hope, in the Women's Issues Committee. I mean, the next Women's Issues Committee, they're talking about Walmart. I mean, I'm not exactly sure how that directly relates just to women, but that's the hotbed issue in the City Council at the moment, trying to stop Walmart. I mean, I'd rather have them try. I mean, I'm not taking a position on that, but I'd rather have them go against Walmart than us.
Yeah.
But they have 23 co-sponsors of the bill right now.
Wow.
And these are ideologues in charge of the City Council. Christine Quinn does not back down easily on an abortion fight. So I don't think that this is going to go away. But they're not telling us timing, so we can only guess. I mean, I was on the phone literally with the chief of staff for Christine Quinn this afternoon.
Sure.
And he couldn't tell me anything.
Yeah. Well, does this ruling in Baltimore, does it make you feel optimistic about the prospects for Bill 371?
It does. It certainly is going to be looked at carefully by judges that would, in New York, have to rule in the same kind of case. Because we will sue the City Council and the City of New York if they pass this bill. We have over 7 or 8 legal teams lined up, ready to go to sue the day after Mayor Bloomberg signs this bill.
Do you see this as part of, not only legally, but I think even socially, as kind of part of a pattern of rulings and decisions and events happening that are in favor of the pro-life movement here?
Well, it's a good sign, and I think it's going to give pause to other legislators across the country. I mean, we have a bill being fought in the state of Washington right now, where they've had as many as 1,000 people at public hearings. That is perceived in the pro-life movement as the most radical state in the country.
Wow.
And we'll see where that bill goes. If that bill passes, despite the decision in Baltimore, that may give them the edge and the advantage, and it may embolden New York to proceed full speed ahead.
It'd be like a ping pong match, just kind of going back and
forth.
Yeah,
I mean, we see different results in the battle over Obamacare. That hasn't stopped the Democrats in Congress from repealing in the Senate Obamacare with major federal decisions for multiple states trying to stop Obamacare. So it doesn't necessarily give us a total victory.
Right. Well, one last thing here before we have to wrap up. Time comes and goes quickly around here, but wanted to talk about the rally that's coming up and what you guys are doing to kind of get the word out about, as you say, Save the Centers.
Yeah, we have a SaveTheLifeCenters.com rally. We've been carrying petitions and getting people to sign petitions, and they can do this online at SaveTheLifeCenters.com. And we have a rally Monday night, February 7th at 7:30 p.m. at 2757 Morris Avenue at the New Life Outreach International Church, where the minister in charge, the senior pastor, is Fernando Cabrera, the only minister on the City Council.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we hope listeners can come out, viewers can come and join us Monday night the 7th in the Bronx.
All right. Well, we'll, of course, show people where they can sign up for that and all more online on our website over at currentsny.net and on our blog, Riding the Wave. And, of course, this video will be posted there as well. Chris Slattery, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks. My pleasure.
Well, stay tuned. There's more Currents coming up. When we return, an inspiring story of survival and compassion as a doctor brings health care to a country in dire need.
It sounds like a very complicated situation, but really what it takes is the understanding the value of human life.
And finally tonight, a look at compassion. Turn on your television or log on to the internet this week, and what do you see? Well, you can't help but see and read about the uprising in Egypt. Men and women, Christians and Muslims banded together in protest to demand change. And the power and strength of the people is certainly one way to seek change, but what about changing the world with compassion? Well, last week, as part of St. John's University's Founders Week, we met a living witness to the power of compassion to build global justice and peace.
I really do hope that the students will be reminded that they are human beings and they are capable, each one of them is capable of making a contribution and make this world a much, much better place. And all it takes really is compassion.
St. John's is a special university in the sense that we're committed to seeking out the causes of poverty and offering solution-based approaches. And an event like this is a laboratory for our students and our faculty to say, this can be done.
Part of Founders Week is to bring St. Vincent's mission alive to the students of the 21st century. And we certainly think that people like Deo Gracias are people who believe very strongly in the inherent dignity of every human person, as did St. Vincent de Paul.
In 1994, Deo, a third-year medical student, fled his native Burundi, a nation plagued by poverty and a civil war that had caused over 300,000 deaths. He came to New York City with neither friends nor family. He endured homelessness on the streets of Harlem before some extraordinary people changed his life forever, supporting him and enabling him to earn his baccalaureate degree at Columbia University and then enroll at the Harvard School of Public Health. While visiting his family in Burundi, he witnessed firsthand what civil war had done to his homeland. In response, Deo established Village Health Works in his hometown of Kigutu.
We do strongly believe that where there is health, there is hope. These are not Hutus, these are not Tutsis, they are human beings, both ethnic groups. We're talking about a society that is, being devastated and dehumanized, divided by so-called ethnic groups. But what is really that? It's something that we have created, human beings. We are all human beings. There's something that can unite them. And they started a really reconciliation, talking to each other. Those are former enemies. So we are focusing on health because health is a prerequisite for everything we do. Working with the community, those very same people who are so sick and neglected, building a clinic that is going to help them see future and hope, but also building peace without getting into politics.
It's one of the most challenging healthcare environments I've ever worked in. Some of the worst health indicators on the planet. Infant mortality rates around 13%. 1 out of 5 children will make it to the age of 5.
It sounds like a very complicated situation, but really what it takes is the understanding the value of human life. To actually change a place, a society that has been dehumanized by misery, that has become hell on earth, into a place of hope and a future where people can look at each other and see themselves as a human being, not subhumans.
He really models what we strive for as a university, which is coming together as a community to raise people up who may not be able to do it themselves. One person working and collaborating with various people from all parts and walks of life in different countries can really make a big difference in the lives of the needy.
St. John's University recognizes in Deo's story a commitment to the worldwide humanity that links us all and takes pleasure in presenting Deo Gracias Nizankiza with the International Medal.
Well, that is it for tonight. Now, coming up tomorrow, ahead of the big game, there's controversy surrounding a rejected Super Bowl commercial. And perhaps the most famous verse of Scripture is at the center of it all. In the meantime, though, remember we're always online over at currentsny.net. You can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. If you'd like to send us a story idea, maybe you'd like to just say hi, email us. Our email address is dropusaline@currentsny.net. Until next time, I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.